The harsh lights of Nexus Prime's central marketplace beat down on Zyra Loom, her soft lavender skin feeling raw and exposed. Chains of iridescent silver wrapped around her delicate wrists, a cruel reminder of her status, nothing more than merchandise to be bought and sold. Her long black hair, typically a source of pride, hung limply around her shoulders, dulled by weeks of captivity and despair. The auction block was a raised platform of cold metallic gray, surrounded by a crowd of potential buyers whose eyes traced her every movement with calculated interest. Some were traders, others collectors, all seeing her as nothing more than a commodity. Zyra had learned to keep her striking gray eyes downcast to appear submissive to survive. She was a Lumerian, a species known for their empathic abilities and elegant physique. But here, in this brutal marketplace, those qualities were reduced to nothing more than selling points. Her ability to sense emotions, to understand the deepest fears and hopes of those around her, had become her greatest curse. Each potential buyer's predatory intentions washed over her in waves of cold, invasive emotion. Kai Ryder stood at the back of the crowd, his weathered leather jacket a stark contrast to the sleek, metallic outfits of the other bidders. His eyes, a deep amber flecked with green, never left Zyra. Unlike the others, his gaze held no ownership, no calculation of value. There was something different, a glimmer of recognition, of empathy. The auctioneer, a tall syndicate broker with skin like polished obsidian, began the bidding. Lot 247, pure Lumerian, prime condition, empathic capabilities, advanced language skills, pristine genetic profile. His voice was a mechanical drone, reducing Zyra to a list of specifications. Bids flew back and forth, astronomical sums that meant nothing to the wealthy traders who saw her as nothing more than an investment. Zyra felt each bid like a physical weight, crushing her spirit further. She had long since stopped hopping for anything more than survival. Kai's hand raised, almost absent-mindedly at first. 50,000 universal credits, he called out, his voice steady and low. The crowd murmured. It was a substantial sum, but not extraordinary by marketplace standards. Yet something in Kai's demeanor made the other bidders hesitate. 55,000, called a trader in an elaborate silver exosuit. Kai's eyes narrowed. 100,000, he responded, his voice carrying a quiet intensity that silenced the room. The previous bidders exchanged glances. Something about this human was different. Not a typical buyer, not someone to be trifled with. Sold, declared the auctioneer, seemingly eager to conclude the transaction. As the transaction processed, Zyra remained motionless. She had been sold countless times before. Each time promised something different: servitude, entertainment, labor. Each time her hope had been crushed. Kai approached her, but unlike other buyers, he maintained a respectful distance. His emotions were a surprising mix: determination, compassion, and something else. Something Zyra had never experienced from a buyer before: genuine concern. "I'm Kai Ryder," he said softly, removing the electronic ownership transfer from his wrist computer. "And I'm not like the others." Zyra's empathic abilities sensed no deception, but after years of manipulation, she had learned that words meant nothing. Actions were the only truth. The marketplace continued its chaotic rhythm around them. Beings from 100 different worlds traded goods, services, and, in her case, lives. But in this moment, something felt different. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. Kai reached out, not to touch her, but to deactivate the restraining chains. They fell away, leaving her wrists bare for the first time in months. "Oh, you're free," he said simply, "completely free." Zyra looked up, meeting his gaze fully for the first time. Her gray eyes, typically guarded, now held a spark of something long forgotten. A hope. The marketplace of Nexus Prime continued its endless trade. But for Zyra Loom, everything had just changed. The small spacecraft hummed with an uneasy silence. Zyra sat near the viewport, her lavender fingers tracing delicate patterns on the cold glass, watching the endless starscape drift by. Freedom felt strange, almost uncomfortable after years of captivity. Kai Ryder piloted the ship with a focused intensity, his back turned to her, giving her the space she needed to process her newfound liberation. 3 standard days had passed since the marketplace on Nexus Prime. 3 days of uncertainty, of watching and waiting, of trying to understand the man who had purchased her freedom without demanding anything in return. Arya Voss's transmission crackled through the ship's communication system, breaking the silence. Kai, we need to talk. Her voice carried a note of urgency that made Zyra's empathic senses tingle with anticipation. Kai's shoulders tensed almost imperceptibly. Not now, Arya. But Zyra had caught something in the transmission, a flicker of concern, of warning. Her empathic abilities, dulled by years of suppression, were slowly awakening. "Who is Arya?" she asked softly, her voice a whisper that seemed to float between them. Kai hesitated, then turned in his pilot's chair. "An old friend, someone who helps people like you find their way." "People like me?" Zyra's gray eyes narrowed, a spark of defiance igniting within her. The chains of the marketplace might be gone, but the scars of ownership ran deep. Before Kai could respond, Doran Nexus's holographic image flickered to life between them. The information broker's translucent form shifted like smoke, his multifaceted eyes reflecting 1,000 different colors. "You've made a significant purchase, Kai Ryder," he said, his voice a melodic blend of warning and curiosity. "The Lumerian you've acquired is more valuable than you know." Zyra felt a chill run down her spine. Acquired. The word cut like a knife, reminding her that freedom was still a fragile concept. Akai's response was measured. "She's not an acquisition, Doran, she's a person." The hologram laughed, a sound that was more a digital ripple than genuine mirth. "In this galaxy, everything has a price, even freedom." As the transmission cut off, Zyra studied Kai. His amber-green eyes held a complexity she was only beginning to understand. There was pain there, hidden deep, carefully guarded. Something in his past drove him, something more than simple compassion. "Why did you really buy my freedom?" she asked, the question hanging between them like a delicate thread. Kai's hand unconsciously traced a scar along his jawline, a thin, silvery mark that spoke of past violence. "Some debts can't be repaid with credits," he said finally. "Some wounds require more than healing." The ship's navigation system pinged. They were approaching a neutral trading station, a place of temporary safety, of potential new beginnings. Arya Voss's message had included coordinates, a rendezvous point that promised both sanctuary and potential danger. Zyra moved closer to Kai, not out of submission, but out of a growing sense of connection. Her empathic abilities picked up layers of emotion from him, protection, pain, a deep-seated resolve. "I don't understand you," she admitted. A ghost of a smile crossed Kai's face. "Few people do." The trading station grew larger in the viewport, a massive construct of interconnected modules and protective shields. It was a place where thousands of species coexisted, where freedom was both a commodity and a dream. As they docked, Zyra realized her life had irrevocably changed. The marketplace, her previous owners, the endless cycle of being bought and sold, all of it was behind her. But the path ahead was uncertain, fraught with as much potential for danger as for liberation. Kai turned to her, his hand near but not touching her own. "Are you ready?" he asked. Ready for what? Zyra wasn't sure. Freedom, discovery, something more. "I don't know," she answered honestly, "but I'm willing to find out." The airlock hissed open, revealing a world of possibility. Arya Voss waited beyond, her silhouette a promise of something more, a network of resistance, of hope, of liberation. Their journey was just beginning. The safe house on Meridian Station was anything but safe. Exposed circuitry sparked from damaged walls, and the air tasted of recycled memories and old conflicts. Zyra watched Kai through the reflection of a cracked view screen, her empathic senses picking up layers of pain he'd long tried to conceal. Lyra Ryder, Kai's sister, paced the room, her movements sharp and calculated. Unlike her brother's weathered appearance, she wore a pristine combat suit, its midnight blue surface etched with technical overlay patterns. "You don't understand the risk you've taken," she said, her voice a razor's edge of controlled fury. Kai remained seated, a holographic map of the Outer Rim territories projected between his hands. "Marcus Valen is hunting me, hunting us now," he responded quietly. Zyra felt the name like a physical blow. Marcus Valen, a name that carried weight that made even the station's ambient system seem to hold their breath. Her empathic abilities detected a storm of emotions. Fear, rage, a deep-seated trauma that ran like a fault line through Kai's memories. "Tell me," Zyra said softly, moving closer to Kai. It wasn't a request, but a gentle demand. Lyra interceded. "Some stories are better left buried." But Kai's eyes met Zyra's and something shifted. The walls he'd carefully constructed began to crack. "5 years ago, I was part of a rescue operation," he began, his fingers tracing invisible lines on the holographic map. "We were extracting enslaved populations from trading outposts in the Crimson Quadrant." The story unfolded like a wounded memory. Marcus Valen had been their commander, a man who traded in lives as casually as others traded commodities. When Kai discovered the truth, that Valen was selling some of the very people they were meant to rescue, he had made a choice that would define everything that followed. "I exposed him," Kai said, his voice barely a whisper. "Reported his operations to the Galactic Integrity Commission. But in this universe, truth is a luxury few can afford." Lyra's hand touched a scar on her brother's shoulder, a reminder of the price of that truth. "Valen destroyed everything we had, our team, our reputation, our home." Zyra understood now, the marketplace. The way Kai had looked at her, this was never just about her freedom, this was about redemption. A proximity alert shattered the moment. Marcus Valen's signature had just been detected in the station's outer perimeter. "He's found us," Lyra said, her hand already moving to a concealed weapon. But Zyra was experiencing something new. Not fear, not submission, something closer to determination. Her empathic abilities, long suppressed, began to surge. She could sense the emotional landscape around them, Kai's protective instinct, Lyra's strategic anger, the approaching threat of Valen. Kai looked at her, something passing between them that went beyond words. A connection, a promise. "We have a choice," he said, "run or fight." Lyra's laugh was sharp. "We riders don't run." The station around them seemed to prepare for conflict. Mechanical systems hummed to life. Protective shields began to engage. In the distance, the first signs of an approaching threat began to materialize. Marcus Valen was coming, and this time they would be ready. Zyra placed her hand near Kai's, not touching but close enough to feel the heat of his skin. Her empathic abilities whispered of possibilities, of hope, of a future they would fight to create. The shadows of the past were about to collide with the promise of the present. The aftermath of the confrontation with Marcus Valen had left them broken but undefeated. Their small ship drifted through a forgotten sector of the Andromeda Reach, repair systems working overtime to patch critical damage. Zara Creel's transmission cut through the ship's communication system, sharp, demanding. "You've made a powerful enemy, Kai Ryder." Zyra watched Kai's response, her empathic abilities reading the subtle tension in his shoulders. He didn't fear Zara, but he respected her, a rival trader who had somehow become an unexpected ally. "Valen's network is more extensive than we anticipated." Commander Rorik's holographic image flickered between them, his cybernetic eye scanning multiple data streams simultaneously. The Galactic Integrity Commission can offer limited protection. Limited, the word hung in the air like a death sentence. Kai's hand found Zyra's not out of romantic impulse but of shared survival. Their connection had evolved beyond the marketplace, beyond rescue. They had become something more. A partnership forged in the crucible of survival. "We're not running," Kai said, his voice steady. "We're fighting back." The ship's medical bay told a different story. Lyra lay unconscious, her combat suit still showing scorch marks from Valen's last attack. Zyra's empathic abilities stretched to their limits, sensing the delicate threads of life holding Lyra to this reality. Her neural pathways are destabilizing, the medical AI reported clinically. Probability of full recovery, 37.6%. Zyra's touch on Lyra's hand carried more than physical contact. Her Lumerian empathy began to weave, to heal, to connect. It was an ability she had never fully explored, always suppressed, always controlled. Kai watched in awe as soft luminescent threads of energy began to pulse between Zyra and Lyra. Her gray eyes now glowed with an inner light, a manifestation of her species' most profound gift. "What are you doing?" he whispered. "Healing," Zyra responded, her voice distant. "Connecting." The medical AI's readings began to change. Lyra's vital signs stabilized. The impossible became possible. Outside, the universe continued its indifferent dance. Distant nebulae painted incredible landscapes of purple and blue. Stellar winds carried the echoes of 1,000 forgotten stories. Commander Rorik's final transmission came with a warning. "Valen knows about the Lumerians' abilities now. You're not just running from a man. You're running from an entire system that wants to control what it doesn't understand." Akai's response was simple. "We're not running, we're creating a new path." Zara Creel's laugh came through the communication system, part mockery, part respect. "Idealists, the galaxy will crush you." But in that moment, watching Zyra heal his sister, Kai understood something profound. Their strength wasn't in weapons or credits. It was in their connection, in their ability to challenge the very systems that sought to define and control them. Lyra's eyes flickered open. Her first words were unexpected. "Did we win?" Kai's laugh was genuine, the first true laugh since their escape from the marketplace. "We're still fighting." Zyra looked up, her eyes meeting Kai's. No words were necessary. Their bond had transcended language, transcended the brutal marketplace where they first met. They were more than survivors now. They were a force of their own making. The ship's navigation system chimed. A new course was being plotted, not an escape but a destination. Towards something, towards hope. The sanctuary world of Lumina Prime rose before them, a planet of crystalline landscapes and impossible horizons. Dr. Valera's research facility stood as the last refuge, a place where the most vulnerable could find protection and understanding. Elder Cora awaited them, her ancient Lumerian form a testament to generations of hidden strength. Her eyes, pools of liquid silver, studied Zyra with a depth that transcended mere observation. "You are more than they tried to make you," Elder Cora said, her voice a whisper that seemed to resonate with the planet's very core. "Your empathic abilities are not a commodity, they are a connection." Kai stood slightly behind Zyra, no longer her protector but her partner. The journey had transformed them both. Marcus Valen's network had been systematically dismantled, not through violence but through the precise exposure of his crimes. Zara Creel's information, Commander Rorik's investigations, and Lyra's strategic planning had created a web of accountability that even the most powerful couldn't escape. But the true weapon had been Zyra. Her empathic abilities, once suppressed and controlled, had become something extraordinary. She could do more than sense emotions, she could heal, connect, understand. The medical breakthrough with Lyra was just the beginning. The Lumerian gift is not about ownership, Elder Korra continued. It's about understanding, about breaking cycles of pain. Zyra's hand found Kai's. Their connection was no longer about rescue or survival. It was something deeper, something chosen. Dr. Valera's research revealed the full extent of Zyra's potential. Lumerian empaths could do more than heal physical wounds. They could bridge emotional divides, could help species understand each other in ways technology never could. You are a bridge, Valera explained, holographic projections showing the intricate neural pathways of Zyra's empathic abilities, not just between individuals, but between entire civilizations. The irony was not lost on Zyra. She who had been sold as property was now being recognized as something far more valuable, a potential peacemaker in a fractured galaxy. Lyra, now recovered, brought the final piece of information. Valen's entire network has collapsed. The evidence we gathered has exposed trafficking operations across 3-star systems. Kai's journey of redemption was complete. The rescue mission that had cost him everything had finally found its resolution. As the twin suns of Lumina Prime set, casting the crystal landscapes in impossible shades of gold and violet, Zyra turned to Kai. No words were necessary. Their connection spoke volumes. "What now?" he asked. Her smile was answer enough. They were no longer running, they were choosing. Zelda Korra's final words echoed as night fell. Freedom is not given, it is claimed, it is created. The sanctuary world hummed with possibility. Zyra and Kai stood at the precipice of a new beginning, not just for themselves, but for all those who had been told they were nothing more than property. In the infinite expanse of the universe, they had found something precious. On each other, and a future of their own making.